Hello, everybody, and welcome to podcast number 63 of the Gordon and Charisse Show. We're so happy to be back with you this week. And you know, Gordon, the subject of this week, prepare to really live. I feel like you're doing that with this like salmon-colored shirt that you're wearing again.
I love this shirt.
It's quite captivating.
Well, our Colorado weather now we're kicking into the low 60s, and so I usually wear a long sleeve shirt. I just like this one. Okay, so yes, I'm probably out of tune with the studio and the podcast.
I know. Well, it just makes you look like you're living in perpetual spring instead of fall that's hitting us. But I kind of like it.
I will have flannels later. I promise. Flannels will be coming on.
Maybe you'll wear your waders in.
From the fly fishing. I highly doubt that.
I mean, that would be hot. If you could do that, that would be amazing.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll consider it.
I mean, just grow the beard, wear the waders. Let people see your inner mountain man come out.
It's not too burly. I'm not too mountainy. I can tell you that right now. You mentioned OCD. You keep telling the audience about my OCD like it's some disease.
Well, kind of. It is a clinical thing.
I'm not compulsive. Okay, I just like to be organized and clean. There's nothing wrong with that.
I miss your beard.
I know you do. I know you do. But let's go ahead and start the program. Okay. Prepare to really live. Okay, let's go ahead and get us started, sweetheart.
Really?
Yes.
Well, Gordon, live while you're alive. That's one of the things that when I went through such a horrible experience of grief and suffering with my dad's suicide, I remember that one resonant thought just kept coming into my mind on the brevity of life and the fact that no matter what the circumstances are happening around us with pain or grief or those things, life is going to go by in a flash. And just to be prepared to live while you're alive. Mm-hmm. I think that's a big thing. And I know a lot of people, when they're in pain, they don't feel like they're living.
Right.
But Gordon, you have some deep insight into this today.
Right. As much.
I'm like trying to talk over you. I'm so excited. But go ahead.
Okay. As much as we want to resist pain, its mere presence can either directly or indirectly change our perspectives about life. And we can actually move into our calling. So many people that I know still don't know their calling in life. They don't know their graduated purpose for what they're supposed to do.
When pain hits and their life is blown up.
Completely shattered. You mentioned tsunami on the last podcast. Mm-hmm. That is a great description of what it feels like. Mm-hmm. Your foundation almost feels crushed. So you move to your inner life. You move to your inner being. What is the power of the mind? What is there in my spiritual life? What are the other parts of me that can even be adaptive, restorative, or even made more complete over physical, where I can move on with my life and still capture this concept of better living and living life to its fullest?
And what if the calling has actually just begun?
For me, it did.
Yeah.
I thought I already had everything figured out. For me, it did. Mm-hmm. Okay? And then you can look back with more wisdom when you're dealing with the chronic suffering and you're handing it to God. That's how I've dealt with it. I've done what I can, and that might be 10%, 20%, but I've handed most of it to God because I wanted my inner life enriched. I wanted to have a heart that was one that held treasures about life and that could flourish in love. That's what's important.
No, that's actually, so Gordon, pause.
Yes.
Because that's very remarkable.
Why is that remarkable for me, Charisse?
I mean, I'm just saying.
Is there something I'm unaware of?
Maybe. No, but when you were bedbound in so much pain.
Yes.
That you still didn't lose that hope.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. And the fact is,
I don't even know what my words were going to be because I did have something to say.
I felt like there was going to be an indictment against me. Okay.
No. Wow, you carry a lot.
No, well, I know you. Okay. So the real deal is this, is our focus has been on transformation for how many years? So when people see us, they'll say, gosh, you look normal. You look alive. No, this is the result of handing our lives to God. Mm-hmm. Okay? And that doesn't mean we still do not deal with painful trials. We're dealing with the same painful trials as most people. Okay? But, and we go through times where we also wrestle with pain. And sometimes we even wrestle with God. I think our relationship is so honest that we wrestle with ideas with God. Not that we can out-wrestle God. Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. We're not going to fare very well after a spiritual scuffle with God. That's not going to work. But there's a refining process in our painful suffering that gives us some great benefits. And some of those benefits are this, and we're going to start with this because this is big for you. Suffering does this. It scrubs away our sense of pride and leaves us humble. Okay? And I've noticed this with my own life, and I've seen this with other people, and I've even seen this with you as the spouse. We really do not change our ways, our perspectives, our behaviors, our attitudes. We do not change unless we fully embrace our sense of humility. Mm-hmm. Okay?
You know, and Gordon, okay, I am going to interject here.
Oh, I know you are.
And it will be good because that is so true, embracing that sense of humility. And I can say this, pride comes when, for both of us, when I'm trying to control your outcome of pain. You know, I can't do that. And for you, like there's it can be so easy to say, I'm waving a flag of this flag of, hey, I'm in pain. Can't you see it? Don't you care? I'm suffering the most. I get the biggest reward. You know, and pride can build up in pain.
Well, what happens is this. You're saying some operative words here. Okay? Here you are in pain. You actually can't believe what's happening to your life. Mm-hmm. Okay? And I'm talking about the kind of pain that's like the tsunami, that's tearing apart everything. Mm-hmm. Okay? Here you are, and then you look to others, or you look to the world, or you look to your doctors, and yes, you might get some great medical health care. I receive that. But your life is still in shambles, and most likely you still might deal with chronic pain. And so what comes up first? What surfaces first? Well, if nothing else works, I need my pride.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And so the pride pops up to the top. And then as you're wrestling with God over time, and you're wrestling with thoughts and new techniques and new treatments and new salves and new ointments and new everything. I don't care. New surgeries, new health techniques, new nutrition. As you deal with that and you get a little bit better, okay? Over time, pride still exists.
What does it look like? Like, what are the thoughts?
The thoughts are this, that I'll have to handle it on my own. Forget the world. You develop some anger. You go through a grief process. The pride is not, hey, I'm just the best in the room. The pride is creating a false self. Mm. And when that false self stands in of, I guess I'll have to handle it. Okay? I've seen other people in the movies handle chronic pain. I've seen people get shot and they still stand up and walk. You create this false self narrative in which you try to follow your life. And then
that you can't live up to.
You can't live up to. And then pain just beats you down. And then what happens over time as you become humble, I really think it's a process. Humility is not one of embarrassment and shame, right. Even though you might feel that, right. Okay, because you're not the same person and you might feel lesser than. What really happens is when you're humble, you become sober and alert to who your true self is. Mm. And when you start to see your true self, that's when you can look at God and say, hey, listen, do you really love me for being imperfect? Are you really going to move me in my inner being? Are you going to create a newness in my inner world that will have power and strength to my outer surroundings and affect other people and impact them with basically the precious gift of love and compassion and kindness? That's what happens when humility happens. Okay? I know for me, to be humble, I was a doctor. And then I'm sitting in a Pilates class, learning Pilates. Okay? That felt humbling. But I was willing to learn.
But
I was willing to be a student.
Yes, there were years in between those two.
Right, years.
I mean, years of being bedbound, not being able to work out, not being able to lift a grocery bag.
Years.
And I so appreciate you saying these words, that it's not shame. Being humble isn't being ashamed. It isn't being shamed or being ashamed. Being humble isn't being humiliated. You know, so I think some people have been so traumatized by their pain that they might hear the word humble and think, that's just one more heavy thing that I can't do.
I can't do.
But Gordon, it's actually something I have seen you go through layer after layer after layer of opening yourself up to God and humbling your heart, humbling the pride you've had in your suffering.
And it's a continual process.
And for me too.
Absolutely, for both of us.
Because I can share like what is being humble for a spouse look like. Well, I can tell you what it doesn't look like. It doesn't look like people pleasing. Because sometimes people will replace the word being humble with people pleasing. Being humble is not people pleasing, because guess what? We can't look for approval in the battle that we are fighting with God very personally. Not everybody's fighting in that battle with us.
You sound like Martha in Scripture. It's the doing, it's the tasks, it's getting the approval flag.
And wanting to look as normal as possible in this world, to be accepted by people.
Right.
When really some people may not understand that, hey, it takes all of your energy to do a podcast. You might be in bed the rest of the day or part of the day.
Right.
But guess what? We did it. God, we humbled ourselves. We're doing this. We don't have to be perfect to do something. And the humility also, for me, and I'm telling you, it's a daily thing. I can be very messy with this every day, and God puts it in me and brings me back to the center. But one of those things is thinking that pride builds when I think I'm holding the whole world up on my shoulders, including providing for us in times where you have wanted to, but you can't.
Right.
And so it's being humble in that way is laying that down and not saying I'm holding up everything on my shoulders. There is so much, these little shoulders, they can't carry that much weight.
They carry more than you're giving yourself credit for, Sharice.
They do, but the truth is, I'm not carrying it alone.
Yeah. So you're giving the Martha perspective in a lot of ways. Let me give you a Mary perspective. The way that I learned this through a walk of maturity with this, and I'm not saying that pridefully. I'm saying that humbly.
I love it.
Okay? It's this. Okay? We're attracted to things that make us happy, content, whole. Mm-hmm. When you're prideful, you're less attracted to God's grace because you've already got everything in control. So you take the Martha perspective of, hey, listen, I'll just go ahead and people please and do all these tasks and make things work and I'll be in control, and you build up pride. But once you start to lose that pride, there's an attraction to God's grace. And I have found this for me. You start to move in your calling when you're attracted to your connection with God.
Wow.
That's what empowered me.
Say it again.
You'll move into your calling when you're attracted to your connection with God. I have found His grace has brought me an attraction to who He is. I'm willing to be curious about His ways. I'm willing to be open-minded because I've already confessed all my imperfections and He still loves me. He loves me in my brokenness, and He has a calling and purpose for me, just like He does for the audience that's listening today.
Each one of you.
We're not the exceptions to the rule. We're part of the family. So the people that are part of this connecting family, there is better living for you through God's grace.
That's right.
And you can do anything through that suffering. Now, I want to say this as we're attracted to God. It's not necessarily that we're becoming comfortable with Him like He's our teddy bear or our Santa Claus. Okay? That's a wrong perspective. Okay? The attraction is this. The comfortability is this. It gives way to developing a confidence in our faith. And we're attracted to the confidence in our walk of faith. And the more our confidence is built up in Christ, that moves us through different doors and deeper pathways of transformation. And we've lived it literally empirically through experience for many, many
100%.
years. Okay? Many, many years. So to prepare to really live, and that's a question, let's talk about fortifying your dependency on God. If we're attracted to God, what do we do next? Okay? Fortify means this. It's to strengthen with defensive forces. So I say this first. As you're on that battleground, dealing with pain and finding meaning and moving forward and being part of the light and being literally attracted to who God is, stand firm with the armor of God. Put His armor on. Be defensive. Being that allows us to grow in trust with God. In other words, it's time then to open our spiritual eyes when we're at a good spiritual position of warfare with our lives, to discover the deeper meanings, to be defensive, to grow in trust with God. It's a way for us then to walk out our faith offensively, to move through doorways.
And that is remarkable in itself, is to flip the script and to think that you can go from feeling just like you're only in the defense mode.
Right. And the defense mode is also preparation mode.
Yes. But then to go back, to go into this other mode where you can walk through those doors, where you walk through it with armor. You're not walking through it exposed.
You're equipped.
Yes.
You're totally
That's good.
equipped.
That's good.
And I know on the practical basis for me, once I was equipped, and once I start walking on an offensive strategy, okay, I had to be single focused on the tasks ahead. I still look for that curiosity, that search of God to finish what He's begun in our calling. See, we're dealing with that on a practical basis even today with our platform.
Yes.
Okay? The message is preparing to live, get defensive with your life, have a defensive strategy so that you can walk forward. We see many doors opening. So the first year of this platform has been about content development.
Yes, being prepared.
Okay? And then we're going to throw in coaching strategies. Well, anyone who's listening right now, I'm not going to coach for chronic pain, but we're developing an app. We're going to have every coaching strategy on there. We're going to have podcasts. We're going to have book sales. We're going to have tips of the day. We're going to have many things. But that doorway opened because we developed content, and we're developing content, and we're following His Spirit through each door that he puts into our path. Okay? When we depend on God, He empowers us to remove encumbrances as well. In other words, get rid of the fluff out of your life. Get rid of the debris on that mental and spiritual pathway.
I've always said this about pain and how I see you responding to things. You don't have room for the noise.
I don't.
And
neither do many people.
And what I love about that is it helps us to stay on the path, because I am a road runner and I'll go on 42 paths at the same time. But
how true, everyone.
The beauty of if there is beauty in pain, and there is beauty through this, it's that you really have like this laser sharp discernment gift, because your body says, I can only do so much. So you see the next doorway, that next step, very much more clearly because of that. You've allowed pain to not just be your enemy, but to be your discerning teacher in that way. So then you can make incredibly good decisions.
Aptly stated. Very much so. We want people to know this. We said this a little bit earlier. Do not wait for your pain to be ameliorated.
No.
In other words, don't wait for it to be almost completely gone before you start walking out your powerful faith. You've not bobbled away your opportunities, nor have you failed in life if your pain hasn't gone away.
That's so important to say, because there's such a mindset, and I think we're exposing it not to hurt people, but to expose it, to set people free.
And this is people also in the church.
Yes, but for you to know, the person who's listening to this, there is somebody that needs to hear this, that what you just said, Gordon, but let me say it again. You have not failed. You've not failed just because your pain isn't gone. You're not a failure in life. God doesn't hate you because your pain hasn't gone away.
Right. And that
you are worthy of love. Even in your pain, you are worthy of love.
Right. And what happens is there's too many people, even in the church, if their pain isn't gone through an immediate miraculous prayer, or it hasn't reduced enough for what their account is for their lives, okay, they stay stuck. Mm-hmm. They don't move on to the next stage, which is this: be prepared to prepare. They don't go there. So they don't get started. Mm-hmm. So that starting line with their life to move forward, that's when the enemy's going to hit you the hardest, is when you're on the starting line. He doesn't want you to take the step forward.
To ever move one step.
He does not want you to move one step.
Right.
And you do have opposing forces in this life. Mm-hmm. Okay? It is not ridiculous to think that you do not have opposition during your painful trials. You absolutely do. He wants you to move forward. So when you move forward, how many people get a vision? So we hear people with chronic pain, well, I have nightmares with my chronic pain. I don't sleep with my chronic pain. My dreams aren't the same. Mm-hmm. Gordon, how do you find this vision? Well, I know for me by faith, I don't have the typical prophetic gift where I get some vision and I can just follow something immediately that makes sense. Okay? For me, it's about my faith growing and who I am becoming by faith. There is a pattern to it. There is a vision to it, so that I will not have lack of knowledge and perish. There is a movement strategy. And for me, there's doors that open. In other words, there's new challenges that occur where I have to rely on God even deeper and deeper and deeper. And these new doors, it might involve finances at times that we don't have. It might involve resources, other resources that we don't have. The question is, are you going to walk through the door to watch God, okay, do the work for you and help you through the process? He's going to help prepare you. Are you ready to do that?
I love it.
And that's essentially doing this. Keep hope alive in your heart. It is a gift.
And that is essential.
That is essential, or you will not move forward.
You can't move forward.
And this is simply done by two things: truth, which comes from the Word, and your faith. And everything is encapsulated in Christ and Christ alone. Remain in a state of belief. Do not fall into despair. And more importantly, do not fall into the pit of disbelief. Your preparation is a challenge of what are you going to do the whole time. Now, another thing that I've seen with this vision is this. It only takes a word or two or a scripture or two to set you on a course for new living.
Absolutely.
Okay? It doesn't have to be a full paragraph or a map that has everything specifically done for you. God works step by step, and you see the map forming in front of you. You see the road. You see the bricks being laid down on the path in front of you. That's how faith works, even with chronic pain.
Yes.
Okay? We have, you're not going to believe this, we have 5 minutes left.
We have so much more to say.
Oh my
actually.
goodness! You know, we might just spin this into another podcast, Trace.
No.
Okay.
Not without shirt though. You'll have to change your shirt.
Okay. Let's go for a thought of the day.
Really? We're going to cut it off?
We have to cut it off. Okay. A thought of the day. What thought do you have regarding preparation, preparing to live?
Preparation. I think the word humility, being humble in your circumstance right where you're at. Be humble, be honest with God. Just be humble. And the things that you're prepared, you may not feel like you want to prepare to do a thing, but be at that word, being humble, humility. I know that is such a key so that your heart can start opening for a harvest. And not just a fire that you feel. You know, there is a harvest that can come out of that suffering, that can feed not just yourself, but many, many other people by how you walk it out, by the character. Don't do it on your own. Don't get full of pride and say, "Oh, I can do this now." You know, it's more of God. You've got me. You've got me. I have nowhere else to go.
Right.
You've got me.
Right.
And I've got you.
And aren't you attracted to the harvest and the feast versus being attracted to the refining fire that feels like judgment?
Course. I mean, I think we're naturally attracted. We're attracted to be gathering.
Yes.
At a meal together in the presence of the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. We are all attracted to that banquet table, whether we know it or not. Because we're called for community. We're called for fellowship. We're called for life. That's what today's message is about, is life. And sometimes it feels juxtaposed to everything you're going through with pain. But life is still for the living right now. Live.
Mine's gonna be shorter than yours, Sharice.
It usually is.
Well, I usually have more words, and it's not because I'm prideful, okay? I'm just trying to explain things as a teacher to other people.
You're a good teacher.
And what I've learned is this, and I want to piggyback off of your comments of humility. Humility and vision have a relationship. I've noticed in my own life, especially with the pain, when my pride surfaces, when it rises up, usually I expect my vision or my outcome of my vision to be so big because I'm so big. Okay? And I usually can't walk that out. And if I'm walking it out, I'm trying to make it all happen on my own. So I'm out of the correct speed. I'm out of balance. I'm carrying too much weight. And with chronic pain, I just give up. I mean, that's what happens. But when I'm humble, the vision before me is a vision where even though it's bigger than me, usually by faith, it is much bigger than me. It is in proportion to what God has according to his will for me.
Totally.
And so for me, I keep saying to you, even when we're walking through life, let's just walk through the next doorway. Let's just open the door and seek him and walk through the next door. Let's knock and he'll answer. Let's seek and we'll find. Okay? And he's going to open that door. That's enough.
And that actually settles my heart.
It settles mine because it's not our effort. So our preparation defensively to walk out the following steps in a vision, you got to be humble. You've got to embrace that sense of humility, and you're actually going to walk with more power because his power is in your life.
Amen.
So that's it for today's program.
Okay. I feel like we have another one in us, but we can't do this.
We'll save it to the next time, and I will not wear the salmon-colored shirt, okay?
It looks good, Gordon, but it is fall. Okay.
Okay, it is fall. Okay.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Again, please go to our website, gordonandsharice.com. Please also be a part of our Better Living community that we're growing, our private, closed Facebook group that we want people to be able to share their deeper thoughts, to share their stories, their testimonies, things that are inspirational for people who are in pain or the spouse of one who is in pain. We want this community to thrive because this is why we're doing it. We're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing this because we know these life lessons are going to be inspirational for you. And you have a story God is building in your life. And we want to see it grow.
Very good.
So thank you so much. And we'll catch you next time.
We'll catch you on the next program.
Okay.